In professional skateboarding, there is perhaps no name more legendary than Tony Hawk. And when it comes to skate-centric video games, the Birdman truly dominates the competition. But after a quarter century of Tony Hawk's Pro Skater entries, the renowned series has seen more ups and downs than a vert ramp. Because even though Pro Skater achieved cross-console mega hits, the Tony Hawk series hasn't always pulled off its tricks. Technically speaking, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater is one of the greatest sports games ever made. Smooth, addictive, and easy to learn, this PlayStation 1 debut was a phenomenon. Popular among real-life skaters, hardcore gamers, and those who never dreamed of grabbing a board or even a controller, the first Tony Hawk game has transcended culture. With its righteous soundtrack of SoCal punk staples, and even South Park's own Primus, the first Tony Hawk game immersed players in the vibes of street skating. Whether you were grinding for tapes in career mode, busting out tricks in single session, or exploring turf in free skate, Pro Skater had a speed for everyone. And with a cast of 10 playable pros cut from the pages of Thrasher magazine, just riding around felt like the real deal. But no one, from gaming magazine editors to the developers themselves, could have anticipated how massive Tony Hawk's Pro Skater would be. Culturally niche, physically challenging, and occasionally controversial, the sport of skateboarding wasn't exactly mainstream. But by working with the right pro, the designers at Neversoft accidentally capitalized on a revolution. Because in the summer of 1999, Tony Hawk made history. As the first skateboarder to pull off the elusive 900, Hawk proved that even the most extreme sports could thrill the world. And shortly before release, this real-life stunt placed the video game in the global spotlight. Deep into development, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater was set to debut just 3 months after the titular skater landed the trick. Thinking ahead, Hawk hoped fledgling developer Neversoft could manage their own miracle and include the trick in the game. With his explosive X Games 900 and the release of promo demo discs, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater hit the market on all 4 wheels. After huge sales and unanimous acclaim, the PlayStation title was ported onto both the Dreamcast and the N64. But unfortunately, another Nintendo product sparked a trend that would plague the series. Choppy, difficult to maneuver, and worst of all, boring, Tony Hawk's Game Boy Color port lacked the essentials that made the home console version appealing. Like a signal of doom, this foray into trendy software gimmicks would become all too familiar. But just 1 year after the smash success of the first Pro Skater, Neversoft and Hawk joined forces for a near-perfect follow-up. Though Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2 didn't change the game, by improving the basics in every way, this sequel succeeded on polish alone. From adding hip-hop and metal to the soundtrack, improving environments and maneuvers, and even throwing in your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man as an unlockable character, Pro Skater 2 was everything it needed to be. With one big addition. Because when Tony Hawk Pro Skater 2 introduced the level editor mode, gamers lost more hours customizing the perfect skate park than they wish to remember. In fact, this ramp placement side quest was so popular, it became a standard for subsequent entries. As Tony Hawk's Pro Skater series seamlessly made the jump to next gen in 2001, it seemed like the stalwart skateboarding series would remain a welcome staple of home consoles. Now a household name, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 continued Neversoft's streak of high-octane gaming. With more characters, bigger levels, and beautifully chunky PS2 graphics, this third entry retained the fluid gameplay of the originals. And when Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 4 was released the following year, Neversoft's formula became an annual tradition. Despite all the extra light pulls and grindable bars offered in Pro Skater 4's Create a Park mode, the polish showed signs of cracking. While the game's standard career mode now incorporated a minor open-world design, this evolution became a major source of conflict for fans. To the chagrin of cautious, keen-eyed players, developer Neversoft completely changed course after Pro Skater 4. Because when the series shifted into the realm of next-gen exclusives, it also left its template for greatness behind.
Charles needs some exercise.
Starting with Tony Hawk's Underground 1 and 2, the franchise leapt into narrative-based gameplay with decidedly mixed results. Under the guise of realism, Underground denied players the ability to choose from career mode celebrity skaters and instead tasks them with creating their own. While forging a path from the streets to going pro sounds good on paper, the quality of writing left much to be desired. From being kidnapped by Tony Hawk to Bam Margera-based toilet humor, the narrative angles were a product of their time. But looking back, the tone of these spin-offs feels more like edgy Grand Theft Auto entries than the chill vibes we fell in love with. When Neversoft released Tony Hawk's American Wasteland in 2005, the skateboard had fallen too far from the mini-ramp for many. Although the game promised an immersive take on LA skateboarding, Wasteland was anything but. With blatant load time wormholes leading from one environment to another, and an overall lack of fun, Wasteland effectively split the Tony Hawk fanbase. While one side of the fandom found plenty to admire in the series' evolution, nobody was asking for what came next. Based on downhill racing levels sprinkled throughout Pro Skater games, Tony Hawk's Downhill Jam was released in 2006 to virtual silence. Although the game debuted on the popular Nintendo Wii, this racing title bears little resemblance to the franchise. Wiimote wiggling certainly had its heyday, but even the motion capture-obsessed culture of the early aughts opted out of Downhill Jam. After longtime developer Neversoft folded against the tides of capitalism and crunch culture, the Tony Hawk series fully lost its grip tape. Although the dev team was responsible for 2 more Wasteland-inspired titles, the loss was still crushing. Without their revolutionary leaders, the franchise launched a new landfill fodder peripheral at the worst possible time.
If you want to survive out here, you better get some skills, quick.
In hindsight, this was probably the only outcome for a game that flew so close to the sun. But that doesn't make it any easier to watch it fall, because when Tony Hawk's Pro Skater returned in 2015 via a new mainline entry, everyone got bummed. With graphics that barely matched the power of a PS3 and which completely sputtered on the PlayStation 4, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 5 showed you that you could never go pro without Neversoft. A buggy, technical nightmare, the 5th game in the franchise is one that few fondly remember, if at all. Though it seemed all was lost for the once mighty franchise, you can't just shutter the birdhouse. And like many classic franchises that came before it, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater rose from the ashes with a remake. Yes, with Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2, a new dev team fully refurbished those classic levels and habit-forming missions. With all the button-mashing, goofy-footed goodness of the originals, the Tony Hawk remakes brought us back to the basics. And even though some choice tunes and unlockables were held back by pesky holding rights, the first run of Tony Hawk's Pro Skater remakes was a crowd pleaser. Whether it was your first time ever on a virtual board or your first time back in 2 decades, this package hit the mark, reigniting a lost love. Everyone was excited by the sales and adoration for the Tony Hawk remakes. Due to their success, the developers quickly greenlit a sequel remaster, simply dubbed Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 and 4. This next title should have inherited the skate game throne. Unfortunately for revitalized fans, the second batch of remakes only dampened the fire. Thanks to the industry-wrecking merger between Activision and Blizzard, the dev team from 1 and 2 literally lost their jobs. Much like the fall of Neversoft, this brutal industry cycle displays a distressing trend towards dismissing those that have achieved so much. And in both cases, the games and their players suffered for it. Although Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 and 4 had essentially been left to rust, the project was picked up by an entirely new team under the Activision Blizzard banner. Unfortunately, these remakes were once again plagued by the cheap tricks of modern tech, because when the newbie devs were tasked with crunching code on the fly, they sadly turned to AI-generated content. While poorly designed decks and artificial voice acting is bad enough, this shoddily developed remake is burdened with changes to crucial lore. From mission omissions to complete deviations in challenges and content, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 and 4 is the rare case of an update that is flat out worse than the outdated originals. Who wants to run a so-called stunt gauntlet instead of smashing up the museum? Lacking the passion of Neversoft, these remakes are a poor impersonation of what was originally so special. While it is a shame that the corporate overlords of the gaming industry do their damnedest to ruin everything, it's also important to hold creatives accountable. After Tony Hawk traded $500,000 in payouts in favor of a percentage from every Pro Skater sale, it seems unlikely that his word has no sway. In a different world, perhaps the folks behind Pro Skater would have been able to just say no to trendy peripherals and ill-equipped development teams. Maybe with a little restraint, the legacy of Tony Hawk games could have been salvaged. But after so many bad landings and betrayals, it's a testament to the originals that these games have any staying power at all. Because though many have tried to disassemble what makes the franchise work, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater is more than just nostalgia. It's an outstanding sports game, one that is endlessly enjoyable and compulsively playable. Whether or not we'll see another remake or even a 6th Pro Skater seems yet to be determined. Thankfully, modern AI slop can't damage the power of the OG titles, because a vintage game that lets you fly like Tony Hawk is a game worth playing. And no matter what comes next, we'll always have the best skateboarding classics ever to fall back on. That's it for this week's episode of Nerdstalgic Gaming. So tell us, what was the craziest trick you ever pulled in Pro Skater? Let us know in the comments below, and while you're there, make sure to hit like and subscribe to keep up with all our Nerdstalgic videos.